Hey, you geeks! The Rings of Power, Episode 6, Partings, has just thrown the show into high gear, heightening both the drama on screen and the comment section.
The numbers all go to 11.
Let's dive right into it, spoilerifically breaking down its characters, world building, and plot. The Origin of Mithril. That legend is quite,
That is not true. That statistic is not true.
That's right. It's not true.
and the show seems to be aware of this.
An obscure legend, regarded by most to be apocryphal.
Recount it.
As laid out in the Simarillion, the Simarils had appropriately elemental endings. One ended in the air with Erendil, one was thrown into the sea by Maglor, and one in the earth with Maglor's brother, Maedhros. Being in anguish and despair, he cast himself into a gaping chasm filled with fire, and so ended, and the Simaril that he bore taken into the bosom of the earth. I've seen some purists say that the chasm was in Beleriand, though logically this happened after the Valar and Morgoth warred, so Beleriand was
Under the sea. Under the sea.
the fate of Maedhros' Simaril could be the seed of truth which supports this ridiculous, yet cool-looking, tale. It's ridiculous because in Tolkien, evil cannot create, it can only corrupt. Yet the show seems to tease a different philosophy. The title sequence shows Morgoth's sound entering the Song of the Valar as a positive, that is substantial, thing, the black sand. I would have thought it more canonical to show Morgoth's influence as an aberration in the beautiful Chaldney plate designs, an ugly lack of sand instead. I've been holding off on that comment because it was just the title sequence and had little to do with the actual plot. Until now. Gil-Galad speaks of the combination of powers within Mithril as
A power as pure and light, as good, as strong and unyielding as evil.
But this is Tolkien. Evil does not make anything strong and enduring. It doesn't make anything, period. The image Gil-Galad invokes is that the black sand of Morgoth has mixed with the white sand of the Valar, making a gray substance that somehow only contains the light of the Valar.
Enough to saturate every last elf in the light of the Valar once more.
That don't make no sense.
The final proof that this story is not Tolkiensian is in the pudding, or rather, the actions of Gil-Galad. Good stories in Tolkien always inspired our heroes to do great things.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered.
Here, this story inspired Gil-Galad to lie to Elrond and manipulate him to infiltrate Khazad-dûm. This is not a virtuous act.
I wonder, High King, if it is in fact you who has been lying to me.
I cannot believe the story is true to Tolkien's world because it inspired lies and deceit. My fear is that the show will make this story true as an origin for Adar, an elf who has given away his light.
Soon it will be gone. And with it, the part of me that knew its warmth as well.
The ridiculousness of that notion will depend greatly on the context of this battle. If the elf was seeking the Simaril not for the good of the Valar, but for his own selfish designs, then he could possibly lose his light, just as Maglor and Maedhros had in the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion also supports the idea that an elf prince is an equal match for one Balrog. However, if the elf was defending the Silmaril out of virtue, then his light could not be spent. Of course, we can now get into the messy world of perception of good and evil. where an elf could have convinced himself he was doing good, but actually doing the opposite. Thus, when the truth is revealed, he denounces it as a lie.
You have been told many lies. Some run so deep. Even the rocks and roots now believe them.
In short, if the show wants to make this story its canon, it has a very, very narrow path of pulling it off. But if the story is a complete lie, this opens up so many new and exciting possibilities. The trees. This show has successfully captured Tolkien's love of trees.
I speak for the trees.
Tree corruption is a big deal in Tolkien, and we must look to the trees for truth. For, in talking about trees, is where they strike close to the heart of the Tolkiensian worldview.
Light upon this tree is but an outer manifestation of an inner reality.
This line made me so excited the first time that I had originally completely overlooked the bologna sandwich that was the story that came before it. It so perfectly captures the substantial Catholicism that lies at the heart of Tolkien's magic system. Gil-Galad is paraphrasing Augustine's definition of sacraments, an outward and visible sign of an inward and invisible grace. Thus, the show might be bringing us to fantasy's best feature, the ability to explore characters who rely both on truth and lies, who strive for virtue but fall short. As established above, Gil-Galad was wrong for using Elrond falsely, but he was right that the elves are fading.
The light of the Eldar, our light, is fading.
In Tolkien, the elves forged the rings to preserve their realms from fading. Based on the existence of elves in the Third Age, one could say that it is intuitively obvious to the casual viewers that Gil-Galad is wrong about the timeline of the fading.
Bit southern for elves, no?
Someone could have lied to him, both about the timeline and this story. Incidentally, that someone would have also had the opportunity to poison the tree.
We first took notice of it just prior to Galadriel's return. We hoped that by sending her away and so bringing an end to the last vestiges of war, we might arrest the decay.
Coincidentally, while at sea, Galadriel meets Halbrand, yada yada, and suddenly another noble tree shows signs of decay, which Miriel interpreted as a sign from the Valar that she should bless Galadriel's voyage, even though now we know Tar Palantir has arisen to warn her that she got her signals crossed.
Don't go to Middle-earth.
Which brings me back to the Halbrand is Sauron theory. I do understand people who both dispute that Halbrand is Sauron and complain that the show is slow and boring, because by making Halbrand Sauron, every scene he is in becomes so much more interesting. If he were just as he appears, the Lost King of the Southlanders, then yes, the show's beginning is quite dull. But if he is an evil mastermind who got himself thrown into prison to have an airtight alibi for when the tree was poisoned, then the show gets more interesting. Because really, do you think a cage could hold Sauron, an incorporeal spirit capable of sorcery of which men can only dream? I think not. If Sauron planted the false Mithril legend and the arbitrary deadline in Gil-Galad and Celebrimbor's minds, poisoned the tree, and then headed out to sea,
I climbed aboard a pirate ship and the captain said to me,
found Galadriel, brought her to Numenor, used her to get an army,
Many might assume you used me.
then this all fits together so beautifully I could weep. Though, as Sauron is a liar and manipulator, it is possible that the Song of the Roots of Hithalgir could still be the origin of Adar, but Sauron merely relayed events in a manner that was untrue and contrary to Tolkien's magic system. I am not going to despair of this show yet. Will the characters fall for the lie of the story which has plagued the entire plot? Or will they succeed in discovering the truth and overcome their obstacles? I will watch to find out. Will the real Lord Sauron please stand up?
We're gonna have a problem here.
Let me know down in the comments if that joke is getting old. I might believe you. Yes, Slim Shady has appeared, not on Numenor as the teaser implied, but in the Old Forest seeking Meteor Man. For they, like Waldreg, seem to believe that Meteor Man is Sauron. Now we know Waldreg has been proven wrong about so many things, including the identity of Sauron.
You are Sauron, are you not?
I don't believe him. I highly doubt Meteor Man is Sauron, even though this episode does its best to paint him as trouble.
I'm Perrin.
He certainly doesn't know his own strength, though he means well. Nori got what she deserved, sticking her hand on what was clearly a strange and magical ice healing ritual. Let me stress that again. Ice and healing, not fire and brimstone. Though Morgoth has an association with ice in this show, I'm still not buying it. Incidentally, I do love the Harfoot song.
That not all who wander or wander are lost.
And that the Harfoots were out collecting mushrooms when the wolves attacked. Something we know their descendants still enjoy.
Mushrooms!
Meanwhile, Halbrand has officially met the minimum criteria of being the show's hot blacksmith. So he's gotta be Sauron. Is his whole song and dance about not wanting to go to the Southlands true, and he is dithering on whether or not he wants to commit his nefarious plan? Or is it all part of the plan to get him into the position to ask this question?
You're asking me to go to the one place that I swore never to return. The least you can do is tell me why. Why do you keep fighting?
Because I cannot stop.
To which Galadriel has some introspection that actually sounds sincere.
Because I believe they could no longer distinguish me from the evil I was fighting.
Her whole storyline about how sometimes to find the light one must first touch the darkness becomes quite literal, as at the end of this episode, she and Halbrand engage in premarital hand-holding. Galadriel's story only works for me if this is actually about her falling in and out of Sauron's influence. Anything less than that, and the story does fall flat. The sword. Some quality bonding time between Theo and Arondir yields surprising results.
It is a key, conjured by some forgotten craft of the enemy to enslave your ancestors.
As for the sword, they might be going for the whole Mjolnir approach.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
The worthy holder shall wield the power of Sauron? Something like a proto-ring? Adar is searching for it, so he can use those powers to become a god and do what he perceives to be good.
I will choose this ring from a desire to do good. But through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine.
Halbrand is either avoiding it or using the ultimate reverse psychology on Galadriel to get it. If the sword is some sort of catalyst for Sauron's power, then it fits with Bronwyn holding it and giving way to despair.
Perhaps that's who we are. Who we will always be.
We saw her earlier trying to be the strong leader that her people need.
Who will stand with me? Who among you will stand and fight?
And she may yet become that. But the show doesn't let her slide into that position because she's a strong, independent woman. They make her earn it. Both the respect of the people and overcoming her doubts, which has been flared by this evil influence. We also gotta give Theo way more credit because he bore this for weeks and did not give in to temptation.
Theo! It's our chance. It's our time.
Next week, I suppose, we'll see Arondir leading the Home Alone-style defense of Osterith, and the fight for the sword will grow intense. The Stone Table. Despite all the dark and dreary tones of the other plot lines, this episode did have some fun moments. Galadriel's fight with the trainees was a hoot! And with the exception of the moment where the two in the back are obviously waiting for her to quip before they strike,
Don't plant roots. Keep moving.
the fight didn't break my suspension of disbelief. Likewise, Elrond and Durin were just a pleasure to see on screen.
Typically takes you people weeks just to decide to take a shit.
If I may.
I'm pleased that Elrond, at least in his heart, kept his oath to Durin.
It is by such things our very souls are bound.
Though I'm not sure how showing the medal to Celebrimbor would not also break his oath. Maybe he didn't tell Celebrimbor where he got it, though that would be inherently obvious to the casual observer. And he didn't know that Celebrimbor was looking for Mithril as well?
To allow you into our confidence from the start, but the High King forbade it.
So let's just push past that foible and acknowledge that Elrond letting his people die would also be bad. His solution to this problem, coming clean and apologizing for a failing he did not intend but occurred anyway, is a wholesome Tolkiensian moment.
I did not know it. But I came for Mithril.
Though the quest for Mithril will eventually cause ruin for the dwarves, it's now refreshing to see a friendship survive past betrayal and grow stronger for an apology. If the show can continue to convey these Tolkiensian truths at its heart, then I will still watch. But if it falls for the lies of Sauron, I will not be entertained. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Your patronage is greatly appreciated.